Alice and Fred's Adventure. Once upon a time, there was a little girl named Alice who lived in a cozy little house in the countryside. Alice was very curious and loved to go on adventures. One day, while she was out exploring, she came across a beautiful pond filled with lily pads. As she was admiring the pond, she saw a big, friendly frog sitting on a lily pad. "Hello there, little girl," said the frog. "My name is Fred." "What's your name?" "I'm Alice," replied Alice. "Well, Alice, would you like to go on an adventure with me?" asked Fred. Alice's eyes lit up. She had always wanted to go on an adventure, and she couldn't wait to see what kind of exciting things Fred had in store for her. So, she climbed onto the lily pad and off they went, gliding across the pond as the sun set in the sky. As they journeyed on, they encountered all sorts of creatures and saw many wondrous sights. They climbed mountains, crossed rivers, and explored dark, mysterious caves. And through it all, Alice and Fred remained the best of friends. Eventually, after many adventures, Alice and Fred returned home to the cozy little house in the countryside. And from that day on, Alice knew that she could always count on Fred to be by her side, ready for whatever exciting adventures the world had in store for them. The end. Cinderella. Once upon a time, in a small village, there lived a little girl named Cinderella. Cinderella lived with her wicked stepmother and stepsisters, who treated her very badly. They made her do all the hard work around the house and never let her go to the ball or have any fun. One day, an invitation to a royal ball arrived at the house. Cinderella's stepmother and stepsisters were very excited, but they told Cinderella that she couldn't go because she was too dirty and ragged. Cinderella was heartbroken, but she didn't give up hope. As she was sitting in the garden, Cinderella's fairy godmother appeared. She told Cinderella that she could go to the ball, but she had to be home by midnight. With a wave of her magic wand, the fairy godmother transformed a pumpkin into a beautiful carriage, mice into horses, and a rat into a coachman. She also transformed Cinderella's rags into a beautiful dress. Cinderella arrived at the ball and caught the eye of the prince. They danced and had a wonderful time together. But Cinderella forgot about the fairy godmother's warning and looked at the clock just as the stroke of midnight sounded. She ran out of the palace, leaving behind her glass slipper. The next day, the prince went to Cinderella's house and tried the glass slipper on the stepsisters, but it was too small. When he got to Cinderella's house, the glass slipper fit her foot perfectly. Cinderella and the prince were married and lived happily ever after. Cleo's journey home. Once upon a time, in a small village, there lived a group of animals who all lived together in harmony. There was a bunny named Alice, a bear named Ben, a fox named Fiona, and a sheep named Sam. One day, Alice the bunny noticed that there was a strange new animal in the village. It was a little kitten with fluffy black fur and big green eyes. Alice went up to the kitten and asked, "Hello, little one. What's your name?" The kitten replied, "My name is Cleo. I'm lost and I don't know how to get back home." Alice felt sorry for Cleo and offered to help her find her way home. She called to her friends Ben, Fiona, and Sam, and together they set off on a journey to find Cleo's home. They walked through the forest and across the fields, asking every animal they met if they had seen a kitten with black fur and green eyes. Finally, they came to a big, beautiful house on the edge of the village. Cleo's eyes lit up when she saw the house. "That's it," she exclaimed. "That's my home." The group of friends knocked on the door, and a kind woman answered. When she saw Cleo, she was overjoyed. "Cleo, you're home," she cried, hugging the kitten tightly. Cleo introduced Alice, Ben, Fiona, and Sam to her owner, and they all became fast friends. From then on, they had many adventures together and lived happily ever after. The end. Goldilocks and the Three Bears. Once upon a time, in a faraway land, there was a little girl named Goldilocks. She lived in a cozy little house in the woods with her family. One day, while her family was away, Goldilocks decided to go for a walk in the forest. As she was walking, she came across a small cottage. She knocked on the door, but no one answered. So, she opened the door and went inside. Inside the cottage, Goldilocks saw 3 bowls of porridge on the table. She was very hungry, so she decided to try a bowl of porridge. The first bowl was too hot, so she tried the second bowl. This one was too cold. But the third bowl was just right. Goldilocks was so happy that she ate the whole bowl of porridge. Next, Goldilocks saw 3 chairs in the cottage. She decided to sit in the first chair, but it was too hard. The second chair was too soft. But the third chair was just right. Goldilocks was so tired from her walk that she fell asleep in the comfy chair. When she woke up, Goldilocks saw 3 beds in the cottage. She went to try the first bed, but it was too hard. The second bed was too soft. But the third bed was just right. Goldilocks fell asleep in the comfortable bed and had the best sleep of her life. When Goldilocks' family came home, they found her fast asleep in the cottage. They were very happy to see her safe and sound, and they all lived happily ever after. The end. The Adventure with the Butterfly. Once upon a time, there was a little girl named Sophia who lived in a small village. Sophia was very curious and loved to explore the world around her. One day, Sophia came across a beautiful butterfly fluttering about in a meadow. She was fascinated by the butterfly's bright colors and delicate wings, so she decided to follow it. The butterfly flew through the fields and forests, leading Sophia on a grand adventure. They crossed rivers and climbed mountains, and Sophia marveled at all the sights and sounds of the natural world. After many hours of traveling, the butterfly finally came to rest on a flower. Sophia sat down beside it and watched as the butterfly drank the sweet nectar from the petals. "Thank you for showing me such a wonderful time," Sophia said to the butterfly. The butterfly smiled and fluttered its wings. "It was my pleasure," it said. "I'm glad you enjoyed our journey." Sophia smiled back and gave the butterfly a hug before saying goodbye and heading back home. She couldn't wait to tell all her friends about her incredible adventure with the butterfly. The Hare and the Tortoise. Once upon a time, in a green forest, there lived a hare who was very proud of how fast he could run. He boasted to all the other animals about his speed, and how he could run circles around them all. One day, a tortoise who lived in the forest overheard the hare's boasting. She was a slow and steady creature, but she was also very wise. She thought to herself, "I may not be as fast as the hare, but I am just as deserving of respect and admiration." So the tortoise challenged the hare to a race. The hare laughed and accepted the challenge, thinking it would be an easy victory. On the day of the race, the hare raced ahead, leaving the tortoise far behind. He stopped to take a nap, thinking he had plenty of time to spare. Meanwhile, the tortoise plodded along at her own pace, never stopping for a break. She eventually caught up to the hare, who was still sleeping, and passed him to cross the finish line first. The hare woke up just in time to see the tortoise win the race. He was embarrassed and ashamed of his overconfidence. From then on, he learned to be more humble and to respect others, no matter how different they may be. The tortoise, on the other hand, was praised for her determination and perseverance. And they all lived happily ever after. The end. The Kind Prince and the Lonely Princess. Once upon a time, in a faraway kingdom, there was a kind and gentle prince named Prince Charming. He lived in a beautiful castle with his mother, the queen, and his father, the king. Prince Charming was very popular with the people of the kingdom, because he was always helping those in need and making everyone feel special. One day, Prince Charming heard about a young princess who was very sad, because she was all alone in the world. Her parents had died when she was just a baby, and she had no one to turn to. Prince Charming felt sorry for the poor princess and decided to pay her a visit. When he arrived at the princess' palace, Prince Charming found her sitting by the window, looking out at the gray sky. He walked up to her and said, "Hello, princess. My name is Prince Charming, and I have come to cheer you up. Would you like to go for a walk with me?" The princess was overjoyed to have a new friend, and she happily agreed to go for a walk with Prince Charming. They walked through the gardens and down to the river, where they saw a beautiful rainbow. Prince Charming told the princess that the rainbow was a sign of hope and that everything was going to be all right. From that day on, Prince Charming and the princess became the best of friends. They spent all their days together, exploring the kingdom and helping those in need. And they lived happily ever after. The end. The Princess and the Pea. Once upon a time, in a kingdom far, far away, there was a beautiful princess who lived in a castle with her mother, the queen. One day, a prince came to the kingdom and asked the princess to marry him. The princess was very happy and said yes. But the queen was not sure that the prince was good enough for her daughter. She wanted to make sure that he was a real prince, and not just someone pretending to be one. So she came up with a plan. She told the prince that he could marry the princess if he could pass a test. The test was to spend the night in a room with a single pea underneath a pile of mattresses. If the prince could feel the pea through the mattresses, then he was a true prince and worthy of the princess' hand in marriage. The prince agreed to the test and went to bed. The next morning, he woke up feeling sore and bruised all over. When the queen asked him how he slept, he said that he had a terrible night because he could feel a small, hard object underneath the mattresses. The queen was satisfied and declared that the prince was a true prince, because only a real prince would be able to feel the pea through all those mattresses. So the princess and the prince were married, and they lived happily ever after. The end. The Tree Keeper and the Magical Tree. Once upon a time, in a land of rolling green hills and sparkling lakes, there lived a young farmer named Tom. Tom was a hard-working and honest man, who toiled from dawn until dusk to provide for his family. One day, while tending to his fields, Tom stumbled upon a strange and mysterious plant. It was unlike any he had ever seen before, with bright blue leaves and delicate pink flowers. Intrigued, Tom decided to take the plant home and see if it had any special powers. He planted it in his garden and waited patiently for it to grow. To Tom's surprise, the plant began to grow at an extraordinary rate. Within just a few days, it had become a towering tree, with branches reaching up to the sky. As the tree grew, strange things began to happen in the village. Animals that had been sick or injured suddenly became healthy again, and people who had been at odds with each other were suddenly able to resolve their differences. It became clear to Tom that the tree was a magical tree, imbued with the power to heal and bring people together. He realized that it was his duty to protect the tree and share its gifts with the world. And so, Tom devoted his life to tending to the tree and spreading its magic throughout the land. He became known as the tree keeper and was loved and respected by all who knew him. The tree brought joy and prosperity to the village, and Tom lived a long and happy life, surrounded by the people he had helped to heal. The end.